welcome back. I'm Keith Barry.
I'm Jennifer Stockberger.
And I'm John Linkove.
And we're going to start off this week by talking about a couple of American icons that have gone electric in very recent days. You know, we had a lot of news around Ford officially launching that F-150 Lightning truck, which is an all-electric version of the best-selling vehicle in the U.S., with a small initial production run of that F-150 Lightning. And also, on the other side of things, from the best-selling to the dream car, the Corvette is going to get a hybrid and an EV version, at least according to none other than GM President Mark Royce, who said on CNBC that this electrified version, which usually means some sort of a hybrid, would be out next year, and then an all-electric version would follow soon after. And don't worry, the gas version of the Corvette is sticking around. You know, for now, what does this mean? An electric Corvette and an electric F-150? Jen, what do you see here?
Yeah, so it, they've been teasing this for a while. So to hear Mark Royce officially say it's coming, and it's the next logical supercar iteration, if you will. So they specifically also talked about this Ultium platform, which is similar to will be used on the Hummer EV, the upcoming Cadillac Lyriq, the Silverado EV coming. And, it's not just a new electric platform. So one of the details I was quite interested in was this heat pump technology, which is not a new technology. You know, Tesla has it and Toyota has it, but they talked about using it better. So essentially the heat pump scavenges some of the heat losses to be able to use it for increased charge times, faster acceleration. Lord help us. Do we need more acceleration out of the Chevrolet Corvette? I don't know. Increased range as much as 10%. So also allows like some of the accessories to draw from that heat pump scavenging rather than drawing off the main charge. So there's some advantages, and GM sounds like they're actively working on that heat pump technology to not only electrify the Corvette, but to make it better than maybe some others out there. So also some strategies to battle some of the losses in extreme cold were announced as part of this too. So again, kind of a new EV platform in the Ultium that they're going to apply to multiple models.
Jen, I love talking to engineers like you because I say, what do you like about the Corvette? And you go on and talk about the heat pump. And I think that is just absolutely great. But like you said, there are things about the heat pump that, it gets down to those less exciting things about what makes the Corvette more exciting. And John, I know you've got some Corvette blood running through the family, and what culturally, what does this mean? An electrified Corvette. Are there going to be people standing around on a lawn somewhere in Florida talking about their heat pumps in 30 years, or what's going on here?
I'm just horrified that they aren't building it with a 2-speed automatic on the tree, on the column, and the Blue Flame 6-cylinder engine. What's this modern V8 stuff that they introduced? Look, this is this is where we're going. People may or may not like it. Porsche is going to be introducing a all electric Boxster for the next generation. They already have the Taycan. You're seeing electrification in Ferraris. It's where it's moving forward, but it's not eliminating the V8 gas engine that enthusiasts know and love, but it's still there. What I find really interesting is that back in March in Sebring, at the Sebring 12-hour race down in Florida, a lot of Corvette enthusiasts were asking the product manager about this, and they were mum on the topic. So obviously, it's not Mark Royce talking off the cuff. They have a video. It's not just some rumor. It's coming, and it's interesting. Look, Corvette competes against Porsche 911 and Audi R8s, and they're all-wheel drive. So, you see electrification being able to, have a lighter weight way of introducing all-wheel drive to a vehicle that's been rear-wheel drive.
Yeah, we saw in the video those front wheels were
So it will bring a lot of interesting things. Once it goes electric, then you start saying, well, what about the noise and the sound and the rumble and such, and it'll be different because it's just different. The engine today is a mid-engine V8. At one point there was a 32 valve V8, a 4-cam that engine, and at one point with Corvette, it's not the same as a small block Chevy anymore. I mean, there's lineage to it, but it's progress moves forward.
I found it interesting that the video to your all-wheel drive comment was in the snow. Was this Corvette drifting through the snow? So, again, getting off the nerdy heat pump, will electrification or hybridization make this typically a summer car, make it a 4-season, 3-season vehicle? You put some performance winter tires on it, Ryan Pizlakowski would add. And can you now use this car for an extended period, into the cooler months?
I on that point, I think what I found pretty funny with our car is that our Corvette that we tested, the current C8 generation, on a cool day, rainy day in the 40-degree temperature, the car, no matter what, likes to get loose on slow speed turns. So yes, it certainly will have a little bit more of that. Of course, a lot of that, like Jen, obviously you would correct me, is tires. The tires don't like that. It's not the car itself. Right. But yeah, it did definitely give it options. I don't know how many. I'm always amazed at the people who throw snows on their performance cars, their expensive sports cars, and head out there. Power to them, because they're so low and they're like big shovels.
Clearance, but rear wheel drive sports cars, all wheel drive with snows is probably we used to talk about the Audi TT with winter tires on. It was pretty good, the Quattro. So stuff like that, I think it could work. I absolutely agree. When you got this much clearance in the winter, not so good.
All of this is kind of a perfect segue into a question that we got. It's actually a question we get a lot, but I like this one because it's from a younger person. So it's from Abdullah, who lives in the UAE, and he says, "I'm 18 years old. With the advent of fully autonomous vehicles, will there still be a place for car enthusiasts and people who just like driving cars and appreciate the character and subtle things that come with regular cars?" And, Abdullah didn't say this, but I think that question applies for electrification too. We get this question a lot from a lot of people, but I like this one because, he's 18. Right. So he's probably actually going to be seeing a lot more changes than most of us will. Not to put it too morbidly, but
I'd like to still be around a little bit longer, Keith. Thanks.
Well, yeah, drive your Corvette.
Yeah.
So Jen, full autonomy. Within his lifetime, but not anytime soon.
Right. So yeah, we've said many times, full autonomy is a long way off. You're right. Maybe Abdullah sees it in his lifetime, but yeah, maybe not us. And the nice thing, and I'll get back to the electrification part, is in the meantime, the current technology of partially automated active driving assistance systems is a choice. You can choose right now to use that part of the system or not. And that's what we like. If you're on a long road trip and you need to stretch your legs, you can use those systems, both to be safer and more comfortable. Later, maybe full autonomy. But for a long time, people are going to have the choice of whether they want to drive or whether they want the car to help them drive a little bit. And that is where I think the advantages are. Again, going back, and why we included this question is autonomy and electrification are the next iterations in transportation. I talk about, it's like giving up the carburetor that's out in my old Mustang in the garage. It's the next thing. And there's advantages and perhaps some disadvantages for each thing. But they get better and better and better, and likely to a point where internal combustion engines, pure without any electrification, be it hybridization or electric, will be the classics like my Mustang in the garage. That's a long time away. but they change things. You talked about electrification of a performance vehicle has some real advantages, be it all-wheel drive, be it lower center of gravity, be it, handling advantages. Hybridization as the step is like the autonomous choice right now. It's that middle ground where we're going to have the advantages of hybridization long before we're at a fully EV fleet. So I don't know, John, if you feel the same way, or Keith, but I think it's just the next iteration. We're going to be there.
I like to think of it, and Keith, you're the historian on this topic, so I correct me. But you look back into the 50s GM and Ford promos of "This is your future," and it's Dad drove to the highway, and then he pressed the button and the steering wheel went away, and he turned around and he smoked his pipe as they went down the highway in their fully autonomous, Jetsons mobile. And I think that,
and no seatbelts.
Well, no seatbelts, of course, and everyone smoked. But anyway, as a species, we've survived those videos to here. But that would be it. I mean, you would have that. I mean, just imagine the autonomous sports car where, you take it and you're driving on the track, for example. Let's just say it's a track day car, and then you're tired as heck after 12 sessions over 3 days or 2 days, and you drive it home autonomously. The car drives you home while you relax because it's 9 o'clock at night and you have 200 miles to go. I don't see automakers saying our performance cars are now autonomous. You will enjoy the performance, removed by this much from engagement. But for many people, driving is a chore, and they will embrace autonomy. But it is down the road because you're going to need vehicle to vehicle and vehicle to infrastructure communication. I mean, there's so much expenditure by state and local governments and federal governments, as well as the auto manufacturers, to get there. I just don't think it's a worry as far as having autonomous vehicles take over from performance. That said, I have an analog sports car in the garage because I do want to have that engagement of a manual transmission and a clutch, and similar to your Mustang, Jen, and Keith, similar to your car when it's running.
Yes, which has been a little while, but that's something else. As people as people kind of squirrel away these collector vehicles, I see, Jen, you have a horse, right?
I have a couple. Yeah.
You don't ride it to work. It's
truly, that's the last iteration. You're right.
That's the last iteration,
right.
Is that there are these products that people have for, you can enjoy them, but you don't have to slog through traffic in them. Right. And that is, I think, kind of nice because it opens up cars for enthusiasts to enjoy them, as opposed to, having to drive that Corvette through the snow because that's your only car and it snowed that day and you have to get to work.
If I could jump in, sorry, I stepped on it. The evolution of also car enthusiasm changes and it evolves. Evolution evolved. You had your Jan and Dean era of cruising, and cruise night, and then you have your hot rod drag races on out on the street late at night, and then you have the evolution of track days where people now all of a sudden, it's huge. It's gone from people just showing up in their car to the trailers and such that average everyday people own. It's not just one thing. So you can have that autonomous vehicle, but it's a natural progression. But I understand 100% the fear and not wanting to give up what and like. It's a natural thing as well.
I find it funny. First of all, I'm going to say, and I'm the oldest one here. You guys are really old with all your references, but
Jan and Dean.
Oh, Jan and Dean.
Beach Boys is obvious, but Jan and Dean. That's
But I'm a student of history. I'm a student of history.
But you talk about our jobs. People say, "Will we even be needed?" The truth is, we have internal combustion engines all over the place. They're not implemented the same way. They're not as reliable the same way. They don't perform the same way. We could, in 25 years, have a full, maybe it's 80-20 fleet of EVs versus internal combustion. They're still not going to be the same. So that's the other element of, they might have a heat pump, Keith, and some may not. So things like that and how they develop these things, even though the technology advances, there'll still be differences and still be ones that are geared towards enthusiasm and ones that are everyday drivers or size or utility or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing software updates. I'm sure that, we're already seeing people unlock potential of cars to customize them in different ways. And that is just as much enthusiasm as swapping out wheels, as exhaust upgrades, as paint jobs, as anything else. So it is exciting. What I am worried about, though, and maybe this is just, me having a car that has absolutely no aftermarket support whatsoever, is as aging cars age, that all except the most popular ones might not necessarily be drivable. I mean, there is a community, but there are dozens of us who can help with diagnosing and finding issues with older French cars from the 80s. But I'm sure, there's a reason why people tend to coalesce around muscle cars, Tri-5 Chevys, why earlier it was, T-buckets and Model A's. And, there's a reason people coalesce around these things. And it's because there's parts availability. But that is something to keep in mind, is we're going to have people who can get the parts and also people who can fix them. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more DIY. We're going to lose a lot of cars. There'll be a lot of examples that there just aren't any anymore, even on track days of older gasoline cars. But I mean, I don't think they're going. I don't think the gas powered car or the car you drive yourself is not going to go away. It may just be that some of them go away. Probably not.
Well, again, I think you kind of just answered your own question in that the popular ones, I can go get any part I want from Mustangs Unlimited for what I have. You struggle because it's just not as popular of a classic. The classics, you'll be able to get stuff for. The lesser so, sorry, Keith, you won't be able to get parts and stuff for.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's probably the people more like us who don't have the super rare esoteric car. Yours may be a bit esoteric, right, Keith, but in the grand scheme,
it's not. It's rare, but it's not valuable.
Well, in the sense of the person who has the one of three, that's the problem. The one of 10, and 2 of them were wrecked. That's the issue out there. There's
the Peterson Museum type collection,
Collier Museum type, Peterson Museum type, those types of things. They're the people who really, they want to keep these vehicles running and they want to be able to start them up and they want to show them and keep the history alive, but they can't, and they have unlimited funds to an extent. But it certainly is. I mean, just think of it. We're in the generation that times perfectly with it because of the internet. Now, I'm not saying the internet's here, amazing. It's that the internet timed so well with the rise in car appreciation in the sense of trying to keep older cars running. It wasn't the same in the 70s and 80s, but now, I mean, I am going to do wheel bearings in a car thanks to YouTube videos this weekend.
Right.
Like that wasn't happening 30 years ago. Being able to figure out a workaround. So it is great.
Well, the communities will be virtual, just like this. So yes,
the communities will be virtual. It sounds like a science fiction.
I know, but it's true.
I've got another angle to look at this from, and maybe this is just going back to that Corvette because, our Corvette. I'm just gonna say I thought it was a little much. I thought sort of in daily driving, it is so powerful, it is so capable, it is so good on the track that when I was going to pick up some takeout on 90, get on 95 for an exit, it was overkill. And it feels like we have reached a point with automotive evolution. There you go. Again, that today's cars are so powerful. You have EVs that can do 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. And they've out-evolved us. And I'm wondering if there's a way for me to kind of program in an old man mode or something, or a town car mode in a car to get it to chill out a bit, or if there's also an enthusiasm for cars that give that more visceral experience where you can feel like you're closer to the limit without having being at 120 miles an hour on a closed track.
That would be interesting. So you want the anti-ludicrous mode, basically.
Yeah, I want the car that makes me feel exhilarated without my having to break any laws or endanger anyone. Because there's, I've driven Hellcats. And every time I get behind the wheel, I've driven the Taycan, and it's fun. And then you realize, okay, there's only so many times I can stomp on the gas.
You've used this much.
Many. Yeah, that's the other thing. It's okay. That was fun. Oh, that was easy. It is amazing. It is truly, truly incredible. But there's something to be said for something that kind of maybe tests your skill as a driver a little bit more. And I get that when I drive my 30-year-old car. I feel every bump. I feel every turn. I feel through the steering wheel with rack and pinion steering. I can feel it. I might sound like a curmudgeon here, but I think there is something to be said for that. And that might be what some enthusiasts want, in addition to these tremendously incredible machines.
Yeah. I think market demand, yourself and others, Abdullah at 18, are going to demand the ability to still drive. So that's, again, and maybe that choice will prolong full autonomy in every vehicle even longer.
So, yeah, Abdullah, thank you for your question here, because it gave us a chance to have the conversations that we have all the time. You got a little peek into the things we talk about. If you have a question, send it to talkingcars@icloud.com. We'd love to answer it on an upcoming episode. You can also send a video question as well. Those all go to talkingcars@icloud.com. Thanks so much for joining us. It was a pleasure, and we'll talk cars again soon.